Alan joins us, by the way, and we're so thrilled to have you. Dave, as you probably heard, is a bit under the weather. We told him you walk into the studio with COVID, and I'm never talking to you again, and I'm going to tell your daughter not to talk to you again. Hey, Alan, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Um, let's just kind of dig in here too. Let's start off by talking about your association. You can go to it's Idaho Trucking, but it's idtrucking.org. You can find them on Facebook as well at the Idaho Trucking Association. All just one big word. Let's talk a little bit about your organization, who you represent, who you stand for, and then we'll talk about what's going on over in your neck of the woods.
We represent anybody from an owner-operator all the way up to carriers with over 300 trucks in Idaho. Most of them are over-the-road trucks. We're a smaller state association. We participate in advocating both at the state level and the local level.
And by the way, so you guys right now are dealing with a couple of issues that are kind of that are pertaining both to Idaho and to the nation at large. Can you talk a little bit about the inspection of motor carriers? Let's start there and what you guys are dealing with up there.
Well, Idaho is unique. It's grandfathered in, and from what we understand, it's related to MISCAP funding. A dump truck in Idaho, if you do not cross state lines, if you stay strictly intrastate, you're exempt from hours of service and safety inspections roadside.
And okay, so let's go on to the next issue then: certification of repair.
It's not applicable in Idaho on those trucks. They're exempt.
And by the way, so this was grandfathered in, and this is carved out. Is there a particular, is this just simply an exemption, or is there a particular reason? Because often the exemptions exist because, the livestock exemption nationwide, they're talking about simply removing it, making a complete suspension, a complete exemption for livestock haulers. Is there a particular reason why Idaho has this carve out, or is it simply a grandfather?
Well, it's grandfathered in, but it's interesting. I did a lot of research a year ago on this issue. Because of all our growth in our state and all these dump trucks and on construction sites, and it was very interesting. The original carve out did not use the word safety or at all. This was pre-drug inspection for drivers, pre a lot of things. We're talking, I think, 1980 or 81. What the state legislators did is they had rates and regulations on the routes and their prices back then, and that's what they cut, and it turned into a safety exemption over the years.
I want to talk a little bit about you, Alan, by the way, because I want to give people a sense of your bona fides, because you actually have, there's a lot of people who will work in trucking who work in one aspect of it. There are not a lot of people who end up in your position who actually have worked the entire supply chain. You can make a case that you've done that. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My trucking background started when I was in high school. I was washing log trucks in Washington State every day after school. And then I became self-employed, and I always either owned a dump truck myself or for my small excavation business, or I've also worked and managed supervising crews in sawmills, and I would sometimes jump in a truck to go deliver a load of chips if the other drivers were backed up and stuff. So I've always been around trucks my entire life.
And we were just talking with Elizabeth Barna, of course, who's been a longtime friend of the show, about mentorship and mentees and all that kind of stuff. And let me ask you something: when you were getting around the trucks, do you remember who your first mentors were? And did that, in fact, were you able to use the examples they gave you to become a mentor to others?
Yeah, no, it was interesting back then. I'll probably end up showing my age. You did not have to go take a CDL test or anything really back then. When I turned 18, my supervisor signed a letter for the state and I got a CDL. But I did ride with some log truck drivers and practice and stuff and about safety and everything. And it's really interesting the way it's changed over the years, the technology. But which relates to, I don't know if you're aware, but we also have that truck simulator that we take to high schools. We've done over 3,000 students so far in the last few years, introducing high school students to trucking.
That's a big thing too, because with the growth of the simulators, I actually think, I don't know if you know this, but on this show we actually have a number of truck drivers who also spend their time playing American Truck Simulator online and have like followings on TikTok and a whole bunch of other things. They're also truck drivers as well. But I was wondering, do you feel like the simulators in your neck of the woods are actually going to help you guys actually get more young people into trucking after years of struggling to kind of get them there? It feels like there's a window that these simulators have opened up, giving these kids love of video games and online stuff and learning things that way. Do you feel like the simulators and the hours that people are beginning to accumulate are going to bode well for the trucking industry in Idaho?
I believe so, because unfortunately, our high school system for decades has trained them, you got to go to a 4-year college. And we've been realizing a lot of school counselors have begged us to come out, and we're showing students that, hey, you can still stay in your small hometown if you want, drive a truck and make good money. And they get excited over the simulator. We've even had stories where a student was struggling in school, both socially and grade-wise, and we rolled up with that simulator, and that's all that student talks about now is, when is it coming back? And I want to, as soon as I turn 18, get my CDL.
I'll tell you this too. One of the things I've discovered is that when somebody is not doing well in their English classes and they suddenly discover a love of either becoming a mechanic or a truck driver, many of them suddenly do much better in English when they realize they've got to be able to write a work order. And when you can actually connect the thing that you have a passion for to everything else in school, it's amazing how much better you do. I cannot believe this. We're out of time. In case you guys don't know, Alan Hodges, who actually is the president and CEO over at the Idaho Trucking Association, joins us this morning. He has served as president and CEO for those guys, where he advocates for the industry, drives policy, and champions the needs of Idaho's trucking professional. Thank you so much, my friend. We're going to get you back on. We can talk longer about all the other groovy stuff that's going on in your state. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
You got it. Guys, go to idtrucking.org. I get why Dave gets flustered here. This is fast and furious.